picture of J27 breaching. So this graph, some of you may have seen this before. It's on our website. It's a graph that we actively hope that people will pull from our website or contact us and disseminate on their own social media or their own web pages. This one's a really important one because it really highlights what's happening with this population. So going back to when Ken first started studying them in 1976, we had this low number of 71. And then ultimately kind of a steady decline until 95, and then this very serious decline that couldn't immediately or directly be related to the captures. There were probably residual effects from loss of a whole generation of animals there, but there was something else going on that the government started calling for information to find out what was happening. And I know Howie covered it, and probably other people have covered it this week too. So the three main threats identified were toxins, pollutants in the water, and potential oil spills kind of going along with that. Huge problem in this, potential problem in this area, in this region of the world. If we were to have an oil spill, it would be really, really a bad thing anywhere, but in particular these waters. Also, vessels, presence and associated noise, and then lack of quality and quantity of prey. And so, that's really the driving thing here. We have this natural experiment happening in this same water where we have mammal-eating killer whales that are thriving. As Ken said, we have over 250 regularly occurring transients in these waters, and those numbers are increasing every year. So really healthy individuals, they jump out of the water and they look like torpedoes versus our little cigar-shaped southern residents. And they're having calves at regular intervals, and those calves are hardy, healthy, and they're living way beyond their first year. And the same can't be said for the southern residents. So we have this, what looks like kind of an uptick here. We have 83 animals right now, but when you pull apart these numbers, so the whole population or the whole clan of southern residents, and look at this from a pod by pod level, what you see is a very serious decline in L pod. We're very concerned about that pod in particular, but also K pod. K pod, look at this flat line there, hasn't had a viable calf. We haven't had a calf born and live since 2011 in K pod. What's happening is J pod here is actually on this upward trajectory, and it's masking what's happening with the rest of the population. And so this graph and the next two that I'm going to show you really tell the whole story. So this graph, Howie was alluding to this earlier. So what this is these are rivers from the middle of Oregon, which we know southern residents go to California, but our amazing lady that works with us at the center, Jane Colgan, had readily available information just down to the middle of Oregon. But so middle of Oregon all the way up through southeast Alaska combined here. So each of these different colors represents a different river. And it goes back again to when the study started in 1976 to 2015. And what you see here, so this is coast-wide abundance of Chinook salmon, all coast-wide, all salmon available to the whales from that whole time period. And you see these dips, these peaks and these valleys. And up here along this line, what you have are the deaths, southern resident killer whale deaths, really tightly correlated with the lack of fish means lots of deaths. It's that simple. It's really that simple. To us, we feel like we show NOAA and the Canadian government these two graphs, and that should be enough to be making major changes in policy, fisheries policy, but it's not happening. And so the center is becoming more vocal in writing, in media, reaching out to our elected officials, encouraging other people, again, to take our data and use it in positive ways to really call for a change in some of these policies. Something else that shocked me when I learned this, and this is my personal crusade now, is to educate people about what it means to be a fish caught in Alaska. So how many people, when you buy Chinook salmon, you're looking for salmon that is wild-caught Alaskan salmon? Okay, so that's what I don't eat any sort of salmon or fish or anything, so I don't look for it, but that's something that I've been hearing for a long time. This is Alaskan salmon, that purple at the bottom. This is the total amount of salmon caught in Alaska, but all of this other salmon comes from the other rivers south of Alaska. So to me, this is orca food. This is killer whale food. When I saw this, I was one of those 3 probably times in my life where my jaw actually dropped open and I was stunned that much. This is something that the public needs to know. It's not okay just to say I'm eating a wild-caught Alaskan salmon, because basically those fish go out of their natal rivers and take a right and go up to Alaska, and then they're potential fish that can be caught in the different fisheries in Alaska. So this is a huge situation. It's a huge, big problem that both our government and the Canadian government need to work together with our fisheries managers, with our recreational people, native people that have a right to some of half of this salmon, to try and come up with some sort of idea about how to help these southern residents. So just to finish that one thought, there is a total amount of salmon available at a given year, and fisheries managers' jobs are to go through and make predictions about how much of that fish can be caught commercially, recreationally, and how much of that fish needs to go be let, able to, it's called escapement, which is an odd word. It's escaping other ways of dying, basically. So they haven't been killed by natural predation, they haven't been fished out. There's no slice of that pie that is set aside for marine mammals. There's not even a slice of that total amount of fish available that's set aside for an endangered species that relies on that fish. And I think that that's something else that we need to be aware of, and we need to start talking about ways to push our governments to have an allotment, to have a percentage set aside for the southern residents, or we're just not going to recover them. But that's not even on the books right now. It's not even on the ghost on the chart. So the other thing, thank you for listening to that little diatribe of mine. The other thing that we're doing, which we're really excited about, is at the center, we're primed to be the repository of information about what's happening in this region. As Ken said, he's been tracking the southern residents for 40 years, the transients probably just as long. And now in the last many years, actually 10 plus years, the staff there have been making a concerted effort to try and track other species of animals that are cetacean species, whales into the region. And this gives you an idea of the abundance and the changing. I really should have another chart up here showing you what maybe say 2005 or even 2010 would have looked like. It would have looked very different from this. So you see this first bar is southern residents, so 300 days seen in 2015. Look how close transients are, the mammal eaters. Humpbacks have made an incredible comeback. I mean, how many people have been out on a boat this week and seen these huge groups of humpbacks? When I started researching up here in 2005, we were lucky to see one a year. And now we're having groups, lunch feeding groups of humpbacks, 15 or 20, or our colleague in Canada, Mark Mallison, saw 50 out in the Strait of Juan de Fuca. That's astonishing. So we're primed to be the repository of this information, and we're starting a network of people wanting to, we would like for people to be sending fine-scale sightings information. We're working with some folks to help us create an app where you can download the app on your phone and push a button. It'll lock in your date, time, lat, and long. And then depending on if you've been vetted, and we trust that you know the difference between, say, a humpback and a minke, or a transient and a humpback, don't laugh, then you'll hit a code and become a part of our really important, what we're calling just this advanced naturalist sightings network. And the amount of information and the being able to track the change in the use of this habitat by these species, I think it's going to be vital for us to have that information real time so that we can help provide that information to fisheries managers to make really hard decisions like close down all fisheries for X amount of time, or if there's situations where there's a stranded animal or something like that, we can respond really quickly. So we're excited about that. It'll probably be not piloted. The app won't be available until the beginning of next year, or maybe towards the end of this year, just for a couple of people to play around with it and see how it works. But the other part of that that's super cool that we're working on is an app where you can upload a photo of a whale that you've seen, and it will tell you information on who that animal is. Like, you've gotten a picture, you don't know exactly who it is. The app will tell you, oh, that's J2, and this is who she is, and this is who her family is. And so as a user, you'll get some information back as well, but we also get your lat long, date and time, and who that animal is, which is just going to, again, be a phenomenal resource for researchers around the world, hopefully, to be able to tap in and start asking some more really interesting questions. This is an example of Jane Colgan again, and she's been doing this by hand. She spends about 60 hours a week gleaning, culling information from readily available sources like Orca Network and other people that have agreed to give her access to their social media, and she pulls information off of that. But this map just gives you an idea of the variety of animals that we're seeing on a given day. This is the 29th of September last year, and we had different groups of southern residents all around. We had minkies, humpbacks, we had a sickly fin, we have a healthy fin out there apparently right now, I haven't seen him yet, but so these are the kinds of maps that we're really excited to be able to generate just for fun's sake, but also really to track what's happening in the Salish Sea.
Double. Oh, over here. Boom! Ah, put on a little show. I think so. We were here last night on Jeff Freeman's boat, and we were right there, and we were right here again. Right over here too.